What up? It's your boy Jahranimo back again with another video. And today I'd like to discuss and kind of report on the recent news of Nintendo sending pretty much a notice to the Ryujinx team, the developers of the Ryujinx Nintendo Switch emulator. That emulator is now no more. It is shut down, and you cannot download the main source code. And I believe the Discord server where that team mostly discussed and managed that emulator is long gone, at least to my knowledge. But when I saw that, it kind of intrigued me because we saw Nintendo go after the Yuzu Nintendo Switch emulator, arguably the more popular of the two, but both were still very active in the past several years of the Nintendo Switch's life. And it made me think, now why would Nintendo choose this year, after 6+ years of these emulators being out in the wild, people being able to play brand new Switch games, maybe even a week or two before they launch if they leak, before the street date? Why are they doing this now? Why are they targeting them? But before we get to that point, I'd like to kind of talk about how we got here and kind of the early times of the Nintendo Switch. So as we know, the Nintendo Switch came out in March 2017. However, later on in that year and early in 2018, there was a Switch-focused hacking team named Reswitched who found a cold boot vulnerability for the Nintendo Switch. Though, despite it being a Nintendo product, it wasn't necessarily due to them. It more so dealt with the NVIDIA Tegra X1 chip that powers the Nintendo Switch. That chip came out in 2015, and as far as we know, it was a quote-unquote off-the-shelf chip, meaning there was not many alterations to it when developing the Switch itself. The most we do know is that basically Nintendo and NVIDIA had the clock speeds dialed down for some better battery life. But we found out in 2018, roughly a year after the system came out, that there was a cold boot vulnerability. This vulnerability was pretty wild because it allowed to run unsigned code at the boot time, and it was an exploit in the boot ROM itself, which meant it could not be changed via software or hardware augmentation. And you would probably hear the joke of, oh, the Nintendo Switch got defeated by a paperclip. Well, that's actually true. To do that on the first version of the Switch, or as we call it, the Switch V1, basically the launch 2017 to about August 2019 version of the Switch, it came in a box like this. That pretty much was due to NVIDIA not being 100% on the development of that when they had it in their NVIDIA Shield devices. So when this happened, this pretty much opened the floodgates, in a sense, for other groups to develop and make their own emulators to run Nintendo Switch games. So Yuzu will be the first one that really got things running. In about January 14th, 2018, that team who made the ever popular Citra emulator for Nintendo 3DS, they were able to get Switch games up and running. And this emulator was able to run on Windows, Linux, and Android. And when I say Linux, yes, that does include the Steam Deck, because it runs on Proton, which is a flavor of Linux, on that mini PC. And then later on that year, we also saw Ryujinx develop and become an emulator, another option for Switch games to run. Although I believe Yuzu was a bit more popular due to lower barrier of entry and more ease of use when both getting the games running on it and even upping the resolutions. So you could potentially get games looking up to 4K, as we've probably famously known from like Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So it's pretty much, this has been a thing really since the first year of the Switch's life, roughly. Every major game that's come out, just about every major first-party Nintendo game that's come out, has either leaked a week or so before, and these folks are able to play on their emulators. And even after that time, they're able to play it there, which emulators are legal. We do know that. But it's interesting that Nintendo chose now to kind of go after them, be aggressive. And we know how they're very heavy handed when it comes to their viewpoint on emulators and ROMs as a whole. They can be used as a purpose of having another backup of your game, but most times that's not the case. Let's just keep it a buck 50, okay? Let's just be honest with ourselves. Most times people want to just play the games free and not have to deal with Nintendo hardware. So we did see earlier in the year of 2024, Nintendo sent a cease and desist and a lawsuit against the company themselves. I believe they go by Tropic Haze LLC, which is pretty wild. This sounds like something else, but anyway, they sent a lawsuit against them, and with that, Yuzu ceased development and official distribution as of March 4th, 2024. They settled with Nintendo for about $2.4 million. Now, they did this due to the year before, in 2023, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I'm pretty sure this is kind of the straw that broke the camel's back that really got Nintendo's eye, because as part of that lawsuit against Yuzu, Nintendo claimed that over 1 million copies were illegally downloaded and played on the emulator, which they believe would have caused damage as far as actually, them actually making legitimate sales. Now, that's not to say Nintendo was struggling to sell that game, the sequel to one of the biggest games of the generation, but it's interesting that they kind of went after them now. They're being super aggressive about it. And it kind of really sparked my kind of attention when they went after Ryujinx recently. So that kind of begs the question: are these emulators okay to have when an ongoing system is out? Like, typically, it's best to use those emulators for games that are either not able to be purchased, or they're outrageously priced in the aftermarket, or they're just hard to get by, or they need to be imported. Some places are not like, the United States or any other, major country. Some games are just really expensive to procure, and, every situation is different. But it seemed kind of unprecedented that pretty much the entirety of Nintendo Switch's lifespan, which we're in the tail end of it. We're probably any day now, any week now, Nintendo will officially announce the successor for the Nintendo Switch, aptly, affectionately named by everyone the Switch 2, as I say it as well. But it's unprecedented that this just kind of happened like this. It's wild. I guess it just goes to show that people really love their games, but they don't care for their hardware. But that's another discussion for another day. It's a bit odd, but I do believe it's part of Tears of the Kingdom. That was Nintendo's biggest production. They sold it for $70, which caught me off guard. Luckily, your boy was able to secure that pre-order for the regular $60 price. We was on it, doggone it. But it's crazy out here. It's really crazy out here. Now, I don't really think this will be the end of Nintendo Switch emulation, period. There will always be other forks for those in the know to build on that same source code and make their own emulator. And of course, it doesn't mean that whoever had them already, it didn't make their systems go poof. It doesn't make their Steam Decks, their Asus ROG Allies, their Lenovo Legion Go's, I can go on and on. It doesn't make those systems just go poof. It's just kind of funny that this all happened this way. I don't really think they should have gone after Ryujinx like that unless something else comes out about that, because unlike Yuzu, they pretty much did it right. They were pretty quiet, low-key. They never really said, this is for pirating games. But they were more so like, this is for your backups. Things of that nature. Yuzu, from what we heard, pretty much always was very open and adamant, or at least people that used Yuzu in their Discord, they were very open and adamant about sharing around these game ROMs, not just for Switch games, Nintendo Switch games too, but other Switch games, in addition to how to modify your systems, and pretty much just doing everything in a really, really brave way, like kind of flippant in a sense. It's a bit odd. Now, Nintendo is in every right to protect their IP, although they are in the more extreme, heavy-handed way of doing so. Though that's always up for debate. And not every company is really as strict about it as they are. They're hyper protective of their IP. They love their Super Mario, they love their Legend of Zelda, they love their Pokemon. Um, but it's interesting though. It's interesting they kind of went after them like this final year of the Switch, or at least the final year of the Switch before the Switch successor is out in the market. But it seems like they're just kind of tying up loose ends here. So all in all, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm not really angry at them or anything. They're in the right to do this. However, it does seem kind of rough that they kind of went after Ryujinx about it recently. They kind of seem to do their thing low key. And then of course, I didn't mention this earlier with with taking down Yuzu, they actually went after the Citra emulator, the 3DS, which Nintendo just turned off the online capability for multiplayer games earlier this year, and just last year in 2023, they shut down the eShop, the digital storefront to buy games digitally. So now you either have to modify your system to get games digitally again, or well, you don't have to modify them. You can re-download games you've purchased in the past, but for preservation purposes, that's pretty much the only way to do so outside of physical media, of course. But physical is king, so always buy physical. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about today. It's just something that really popped up. It's my opinion. I just wanted to chat about it. What do you all think? Do you all think Nintendo's in the right to go after both of these emulators? Emulating current generation Nintendo games? Days, possibly weeks before the game officially comes out. Do you think that's okay? Or do you just want to play your free games and that's it? Let me know what you think in the comments below. But other than that, I think I'm gonna slide up out of here. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the content. We're gonna see about getting more of these videos out, different think pieces, different discussion pieces, and check out the channel with other content as well. And feel free to check out the second channel, Jahranimo VODs, where I pretty much put all of my gameplay, unedited gameplay focused videos, whether they're stream VODs or just gameplay clips I just record on the side, if you're interested. But yeah, thank you for watching, and take it easy. Peace out.